All right, and welcome to the TSG Multimedia video podcast for July 1st, 2014. This is John sitting here with
Dan,
as usual, and we're looking at an N-scale locomotive. What's up with this?
well, this is a Rivarossi N-scale Pacific that I got many years ago, probably in the early 80s. And I've repainted it twice. And most recently, just about maybe a month ago. And I redid it into our TNSG scheme.
Right?
I'd originally, I think it was originally a long time ago when it was first new. It was painted for Santa Fe, and then I repainted it for another fictitious railroad that I had, and it was a little bit of a gaudy kind of a paint scheme. I'm not sure where my head was at that point.
What color was it?
It was maroon, sort of maroon boiler. I think I was sort of trying to go for making it look something like the Canadian Pacific Royal Hudson, although it didn't really look anything like that. Because that one doesn't. I think the boiler on that one is gray or something. But anyway,
You were experimenting.
I was, yeah. It was supposed to be like the fancy excursion engine or something. But anyway, and I'd also at that time I'd modified it and I'd put the oil bunker in the tender. So I had a coal tender, and then I'd put the number boards on it and the feed water heater up top. So I left all that stuff rather than redo it when I repainted it, because I actually completely stripped it down to bare plastic and then started over. And I also, while I was at it, I also added the little railing on the back, because I noticed a lot of oil burner engines, especially like Santa Fe or Burlington, had the little handles up there, I guess, so if somebody was walking up there, they could hold on to something.
Yeah, or maybe when they were filling the little...
Yeah, the water spigot. That water spigot, by the way, or the water hatch, is actually an HO scale MU connector.
We're kit bashing. I didn't even know it.
Yeah. And I actually did this before I repainted it. I actually put some rivet detail in here using Archer rivet decals. I don't know if you can see those.
I don't think it's showing up on the video, but
okay.
I can't even see it in person, but I'm also blind.
Okay. And I also added a working backup light. Because what I did when I rebuilt the engine this last time, I put a Locosound 3.5 micro decoder in the tender and dual 50 ohm speakers, which wired together form 100 ohms, because that's what the 3.5 series takes. So you can hear it's making some little noises. And I also changed the lights to LED. Well, this light didn't even exist before. This light, the casting is from a company called Miniatures by Eric, and I put a little surface mount LED inside.
Right. That'd be the only way you could do it, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty small. And the front one, I used a 3mm LED that's back here where the original light bulb was, and then I made a little fiber optic lens for it.
Right.
So it actually looks pretty good, I think. So the light is pretty much done exactly the same way as I do the lights in the HO scale diesels that I build, except instead of two lenses, like you usually see at the HO ones, there's only one, because it's a steam engine. But
yeah,
it's a lot brighter than it was.
Yeah,
it used to be, so you could barely see it if the bulb was even working.
I can't see it in the camera because there's not enough track showing, but I can see it shining off the track like a real train does.
Yeah, it will. That's one thing I like about the LEDs with the fiber optics, is they will actually illuminate the track a little bit. It looks really neat if you're running them in a dark room, like you're doing nighttime. It actually will project the light just like a real train headlight will.
I could see that.
Yeah.
So I guess it's worth mentioning, Dan. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I guess it's worth mentioning that the weathering and detailing diesel locomotives, or I guess it's HO scale weathering and detailing volumes 3 and 4, were recently released, and they have chapters showing how to make fiber optic lenses. So that's worth taking a look at if you have a chance.
Yeah.
That is pretty bright.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, I think. Those little surface mount LEDs, they're very bright, so and I kind of like it because it fits barely, but it fits inside that little casting. So I mean, I had to drill it out a little bit, of course, but you know, it's all there and it works. So pretty cool. It also whistle and bell noises. And one of the things, oops, come on, okay. Sorry, I was not turning off there for a minute. Because of the tiny speaker size and because the enclosure is really tiny, barely bigger than the speakers. This isn't a very loud sound installation, but you know, it's okay because it's an old engine and it's not really like, you know, one that's a high priority, I guess you could say, or something. So I mean, it's fine. It's good enough.
It sounded pretty loud to me.
Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, for such a small.
Part of the problem is this engine is fairly noisy. It has some gear noise when it runs.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of drowns it out a little bit. But you know, like I said, it's you know, for an engine that's pretty old, it's not doing too bad. Especially considering these have like all metal gears, which tend to be very noisy.
Seems like that would make them last longer too, though.
Yeah, they're pretty durable, I guess, in that sense, but they're noisy. I had originally thought of remotoring this engine with a different motor. However, the motor that I had is a 16 millimeter diameter coreless motor, and while that supposedly will fit some N-scale Rivarossi, I guess the motor in this one is like a 15 millimeter.
Oh.
It was just a hair too big.
Figures.
So because it's such tight clearances in there, trying to drill it out for the extra clearance would have pretty much meant having to do major surgery on the frame of the model. So since the original motor was working, I just decided to leave that. But actually with the Loc Sound decoder, it does actually run better than it did before.
So yeah, I did hear a little bit of grinding with the gears.
Yeah, the gears in the motor are a little bit loud. There's not a lot you can do about that without doing some major reconstruction, which I don't honestly probably wouldn't do with this engine. You know, it doesn't run like a Kato Mikado or something newer, you know,
Yeah.
or even the Bachmann Spectrum 280. I have one of those, and that's a pretty smooth engine. You know, it's an old Rivarossi, you know, but
Yeah, I mean, and if it's from the 80s, that means it's what, 30 some
yeah,
odd
the
years
design is
old.
probably even older than that. I mean, I think these came out in the 70s or maybe even sooner. I don't know, but you know, they've been around a long time. So, you know, considering its age, I think it does pretty well. One of the things it suffers from is that it only picks up current from half of the wheels on the tender and half of the wheels on the engine.
Why would they have done it like that? I don't get that.
It's just simplicity of the way it was constructed.
Is there a way to get in there and like create little contact wires that go
You'd have
across?
to rig up something, yeah. Which I've thought about doing. That would be probably a way to improve it because it does tend to stall. One of the things I'm glad I did was I bought the Katie. That's how old this is, not Microtrains, but Katie before they split off Microtrains into its own company. Conversion pilot, so it has a working coupler on the front.
Oh, right.
And it also included the coupler for the back as well. So now I did end up having to change out the front coupler because the pilot itself was okay, but the coupler was broken.
Oh.
So I actually had to use a modern Microtrains coupler. I could not find these, even on eBay. I could not find these. It's like they're just not made anymore, I guess. So I was able to. I fiddled around in my Microtrains box of coupler parts and managed to piece together a coupler that fit in there. It probably needs a little bit of a shim because it tends to flop up and down a bit more than it should.
Yeah.
Because the shank on the old one was thicker and this one is thinner, so it has more play.
Oh, vertical.
Yeah, vertical play. But other than that, it works pretty well.
Yeah.
And anyway, but I'm glad I kept that though, because otherwise it would be really hard to put a working coupler on the front of this without, again, doing a lot of surgery to the stock pilot.
Well, and it's not like you're using it all the time. So.
No. I mean, this was, like I said, it's not. This is an engine that's probably, if I ever build an in-scale lay, I'll probably spend more time sitting by the roundhouse than anything.
It'll look good there.
Yeah, it'll look good.
It does look pretty nice.
Yeah. I also I painted this. I used some for the graphite. I used some True Color paint, which is the first time I tried using that.
Oh, is that a new brand for you?
It's a new brand for me. I haven't tried it before, and I actually liked it. It was it's pretty nice paint.
Is it an acrylic or an oil?
It's an acrylic enamel, I think they call it. It's kind of strange. I'm not sure.
Wait a minute. Enamel means it's oil based, and acrylic means it's water based.
I know. I don't know. I'd have to get the bottle to look at what they say it is. But anyway, it seems to work pretty well.
Well, that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
What did you clean it with? Was it mineral spirit or?
I forget what they said. I think I might have actually used acetone to clean the airbrush. I didn't thin it with that. I don't think I thinned it with anything when I sprayed it.
Yeah.
I think I just sprayed it right out of the bottle.
Yeah. Back from my old house painting days, acrylic enamel just is like a
I know it
contradiction.
sounds weird, but it's some kind of. I think that's. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong, but I'd have to go get a bottle and look. I don't have a bottle handy. We're at John's house, and I don't have any of my stuff here.
You're going to get the angry emails now from the nitpickers, Dan.
Yeah, why didn't you get that right? You're supposed to be like the all-knowing expert. Sorry, guys. I am fallible here. But.
Well, now that we got that, I got it on tape too.
Yeah, you did. You have my confession on tape, so now the whole world knows. Anyway, but you know, it was a fun little project to kind of redo the engine and just spruce it up a bit.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for this podcast. So make sure you tune in or subscribe, whatever, for our audio podcast that comes out on the 15th. And then, of course, our next video podcast will be out on August 1st. And, get out there. I should mention, since this is coming out on July 1st, Niles Canyon Railway is having a special steam operations for July 4th. So make sure you get out there and see that if you're in the Bay Area. And I don't remember which engine they said they were going to be running, but I received an email about it, and I'm sure you can get information on their website, ncry.org. So anyway, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks.